Can I tell you a story? In the far distant past, there was a kingdom of elves who chose to enslave others, those who had not formed such advanced societies, tribals, wood elves, sun elves, imprisoning them, forcing them into servitude. And these elves were unhappy. The world was changing around them, and they could not see it. New gods slipping in the place of the ancients. And the ancients did not want it. And so, while two elves were in the mine one day, breathing in the soot and the cinder, a voice called out to them and said, "Don't you wish for something better? Don't you want your own empire? No slaves, no restrictions. Break your chains. Be free." And the elves, they listened to this voice. They listened as it told them rituals they could do to bring power back to their diminishing master. And they wrote it all, each long passage in a book. And 2 years later, this raggedy, hidden away thing was completed. And they called out the name of their benefactor. The Tall One. Yes. Yes. And he freed the slaves from bondage, allowed them to revolt and kill their masters. And then they rose to a new land and began building an empire unto themselves, changing their look to become a new race of elves, the Blood Elves. It is so funny how history repeats. How this event is often seen as something awful, and yet there is an entire god now in the new pantheon devoted to rebellion and bloodshed, all paved by me, by those brave innocents who were willing to fight back against tyrannical leadership. And soon, their great empire was bustling with life. Enormous temples, flowing rivers, they had carved a way out of the jungle, all in worship of their elder gods. But the new, weaker gods were jealous. They didn't wish for anyone to have power but themselves. And the Tall One's protege, his pseudo-son, one he cared for so much, and raised to be the new leader of the gods, Inari, betrayed him, and sided with the new gods. Pathetic. It claimed that the great Blood Elf kingdom was a falsehood, a myth, something that must be destroyed, that the Blood Elves themselves were toxic, wicked, barbaric. He brought down everything, turned it to ash and rubble, until there was nothing left. And when the great kingdom had been set ablaze, the Blood Elves turned to their master and prayed, sacrificing blood and life for him to hear them, for me to hear them. And he did. And he issued a statement of war. If those in the paradise of the sand claimed their new gods greater, if those in the woods and high on mountain believed that they were virtuous, when the elder gods had created all, every stinking creature crawling from the pools of life, every rooted tree springing its way like an infection onto the once beautiful body of earth. Monsters were being transformed from their natural beauty into something humanoid. It was a terrible time. And so the monster war began. The Blood Elves and the creatures of the night versus the virtuous elves of the light and the Fae. And of course, that small drop in the ocean. Humans. Such a young, innocent race. How many were there? There were a lot less afterwards. Creatures most embodying what the new gods wanted for the world. Their shape, their brains, the way they acted. They had to be destroyed. And although it was all lost in the great final battle, when the two titans of each side came up against each other, and the traitor Inari raised his sword high, slicing through the neck of his mentor. And then we were nothing, and my book, it was tossed away. Like dust on the wind. And in 100 years, the last crumbling vestiges of the elder gods faded. The only remnants are last dying struggle to stay relevant. The great monster war. That can change. You can fix it. Bring us back. We need you. I need you.
artwork in this video was by Sam. Thank you so much for all your hard work.